Just because you have the title of pastor doesn't mean you not above reproach from somebody who don't.
We out here in these streets.
So as you guys know, I have been a musician all my life. I started off playing the keyboard about 6. Started learning when I was 6. And I started playing in the church about 11 that I can remember. I mean, when I tell you, my mom and my uncle and my dad and the OMI, I gotta say the OMI, I'm gonna put it out there. The OMI, when we were younger, man, amazing church. They really perpetuated the gifts that the young people had. Like when I tell you, every one of us, my cousins, we either sing or play. And we were the musicians of the church. We were the singers of the church, the worship team of the church. And obviously I come from a family of pastors, so that kind of happens, right? Grandpa's a bishop. It's just everywhere, right? This is my Webb family, my mom's side of the family. So we grew up musicians. I grew up musician. I played the keyboard. I played the guitar. I played the bass. I grew up playing the keyboard and drums first. I didn't learn the guitar and the bass until I was well into my adult years. I went to school for music as well. So I have a degree in that, a bachelor's degree in music composition and in performance. So those things are great from the great school of the Peck School of the Arts of University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. I'm over here giving all these plugs. I need to get my coins, huh? But anyways, so I've been playing for so many different churches over the years, ranging from my family to Assemblies of God, Lutheran. I played at a Catholic church before because I had to play that big old organ. That thing was hard. I played at non-denominational, apostolic. Church of God of Christ is my base. My uncle's church is non-denomination, but came out of the Church of God of Christ. And then my grandpa is under the Church of God of Christ. And then obviously I played for a lot of Church of God of Christ. First Baptist, Second Baptist, Missionary Baptist. AME, CME. I've been all over the place. And various churches have been paid and have not been paid. There are some times where, like, I currently work at a church as a musician, music director. And I really like this church, you know. There are some paid positions and then there are not paid positions. Depends on if you're on staff or not at my church. So, and I get it because they are there to create the moment. And my church is like a community. There's a lot going on over there. So they have a lot to prepare for the weekend services. There's 4 weekend services, plus there's satellite services in different areas like Canyon Country. The main church is in Valencia with Canyon Country, Santa Paula, Blythe, and some other places. So we have remote service, so it's an operation. You got to do some things. So I can understand why there are some people on staff and there are some people are not, right? Then you got your volunteer musicians. So getting on with this, I recently came across a video, and I'm going to play this video for you in a minute. But let me premise this of this pastor, and I think he's an African pastor, right? And he's an African pastor. What am I thinking? His accent gives it away, right? I don't know if it was over here in America or if it was over in Africa, but he was an African pastor, and he had all the musicians stand up. Matter of fact, let me just show you this real quick.
Come, quickly. All instrumentalists, come. God bless you. I really appreciate you guys. Stand here. Where are the rest? You are a thief. If you play church instruments and collect money, you are a thief. You are a thief. You are a thief. Satan's cousin. Some people are band boys. They move around playing and collecting money. Guys, you guys can play very nicely, but who need Juma? And they say erroneous and bizarre things like, but the pastors are being paid. Who told you pastors are paid because they preach? Preaching, you are not paid for preaching. Pastors are not paid for preaching. preaching. Then some people shouldn't be paid because their preaching is bad. Pastors are not paid for. They are doing. I tell my church members, if you want to do full time, don't fool yourself. You have to work hard. You are sleeping more than people who are working. And it is better to be doing church work and be working again. That shows that you are sacrificed. You are committed to God. Now listen, 1 Corinthians says that for though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of. For necessity is laid on me. This is what you...
So you saw what just happened. So let me explain what happened, right? So he called all these musicians up. And basically, he called all the musicians a thief. If they're getting paid to play, they are thieves, right? I'm like, whoa, wait, what? Wow. Well, what just happened? Right? So I'm like, am I a thief? Because I don't have a problem with getting paid to get play. Now, here's my thing. Reason why I don't, let me give me my opinion. I don't have a problem with getting paid to play because one, most churches, especially if you're in the Church of God of Christ, Tuesday night service, Wednesday night Bible study, or is it Thursday night rehearsal, Friday night service, Sunday morning service, Sunday evening service, sometimes Saturday conferences almost every month, some type of appreciation, regional meeting, district meeting. Like, when I tell, and then you still got to go home and practice the music that you've given, or if you are the music director, the MD, or if you're the worship pastor, you have to create music, get the singers together, make sure the singers are there with the singers rehearsal as well as teach the musicians. So that's a full-time job. So if you want that to be done effective, then that person has to dedicate his total time to being at church. So that means he can't work a regular job and actually do that job well, unless there's like certain schedules and stuff like that. And you know, everybody's schedule in a church don't work together, right? Which is funny. So you have to set up all these things. So I'm not opposed to getting paid because I used to have to do that. And there are churches where all I had to do was learn the music, come and play. So I don't mind doing that volunteer. So it's not that I have to get paid. But what really made me mad about this is that to call a musician thief. Now, there are some scriptures that back up in the Bible, back up musicians getting paid. I don't have them in front of me. You can go look that up. It's easy to find. This is what Google's for, right? And you'll see a lot of people talking about that. So, but I'm not going to get into reading scriptures on my show, right? I should. That's for another show. That's for another thing. But this is a radio show. We're music and commentary, right? So, we have to understand this. And let me talk to you pastors who believe this. And just because you have the title of pastor doesn't mean you not above reproach from somebody who don't. Now, mind you, I do have the title of pastor. I've had it for years. I'm always doing this in my blog because I got to make sure this thing is like by my mouth when I'm talking. Sorry, guys. So I do have a title of pastor. I have minister license, pastor's license. There's a few churches that I had to in order to serve as their music director or music pastor or their music minister or whatever the title they give them. So yes, I do have these licenses. Not to make that any, like that's something that gives me the authority to say anything to you. My authority comes from me or God. Sorry, God. But I'm saying it because I want to say it. Pastors, paying your musicians is something that is about doing your due diligence for somebody who is serving and creating an atmosphere for what you're doing. You know, there's a difference between me yielding my gift up to God to play, and I do that, but then requiring me to do things. Sunday, I come in, I render my gift to God, and I play, and I go in there in the right spirit. I pray, make sure that my spirit is right. I'm free of negative energy, and I've got positive energy when I'm up there playing, because obviously we're creating an atmosphere, and that's like any musician job. When you're on stage, you're creating an atmosphere for the people you're playing for. Like, even if I was playing for a secular artist, there's a specific feel they want to have. Sorry, I'm specific feel they want to have at their concert and in their shows that you have to provide. Same thing at church. There's a specific feel that I have to provide so that the spirit and the feeling of what's going on in church is not stifled. Or changed. I have to make sure that I'm on one accord. So I render myself, I submit myself to doing that, But when I have to go to rehearsal, when I have to go home and work and learn songs, that's work. No matter how you see it, it's work. And you should be glad to pay the people who are working for you. If that's what the contract says, if that's what you agreed to. So you shouldn't be calling anybody any thieves if you agree to pay somebody for the gift and the talent and the skill that they have. Everybody don't have a skill. Being a musician is just as comparable as building a house, or being an architect, or being a doctor. It's a skill that I took time to acquire to make myself valuable. And if I can go in a world and play, why is it that some churches have a hard time paying the musicians in the church? But yet, if I go in the world, then I'm blaspheming. Oh, you playing for the world. And I'm talking about specifically black churches. My current church doesn't do that. I'm not talking about my current church. My current church is great. Actually, we had a young man that used to play drums, and he played for Ariana Grande and he moved to Nashville. So, and nobody said anything about that at my church. So they're okay with people being career musicians. Actually, we have a lot of career musicians in my church. So, but I've came from churches who like, oh no, that's blasphemy. You're the devil. If you're playing for the world, that's the devil. You're not right. You're not under the Spirit of God and stuff like that. So, which is not fair to the musician whose life is centered around music. So how am I supposed to eat? How am I supposed to take care of my family? How am I supposed to live and pay my bills, having a place to live? You want me to be a struggling musician all my life? And you wonder why all the musicians go to the world? Because they can get paid. It's no different. So if I'm going to come and work for you, and I'm going to do all the sacrificing, you should be glad to pay the musicians that you pay, that play for you and provide. So, and then anything else is over and beyond, and you don't expect that person to say that this is what you have to render to God. No, I'm gonna pay my tithe, right? Because I'm getting paid. So I'm gonna pay my tithe. I'm able to render that back to God through my tithe. That's a whole nother topic too. Or my giving, providing financial backing for the church that I belong to, being faithful, being a leader, taking on the principles and displaying those principles, because that a musician does not have to do. That is something he chooses to do when he joins that organization. What he chooses to do, what he has to do if he's paid to do it, is play and make sure that he's living a standard that magnifies that stage. Right? Everything else is extra that he's rendering. So I've had pastors tell me, well, you got to render your services to God and all this stuff like that. I'm like, bruh, sit down. Like, you don't even want me to be a member of your church. You just hired me. Like, I'm not even, and then some of them I wasn't even members of their churches. I was a member of a whole nother church. I was just hired to play there, and then they expected me to pretty much do a lot of different things, but that's a whole nother situation. And that's when I was just a musician, not as the MD or the pastor, the worship pastor. So yes, no, and I'm gonna put this out here. It is not. You're not musicians. You're not sitting if you're asking to be paid from a church. You're not a thief. That man was speaking out of pride, and he was speaking out of, in my opinion, out of a spirit, because most of those pastors will talk like that. It's because they want to keep the money, because they're getting paid. Look at them. Look what they're driving. You don't see a lot of pastors who are living like these certain pastors telling other musicians like that. Like I love Pastor Ming at my church. Higher Vision. Let me plug for free though. Higher Vision is because he's a humble heart. That man is a giving man. He's even given to me. I don't know if he takes a salary from church, but if he do, I can't tell. But if it is, it's a salary. It's not, I need y'all to give a certain amount so I can get paid today to preach. Like some of these churches, we don't got enough. No. And if I'm not mistaken, he is on staff because there's a lot of pastors on staff at that church. It's an organization. It's built like an organization. We're going to get into that in the next segment. So, and I've never heard him preach to a musician saying, you're wrong for wanting to get paid to do this. You're wrong. Oh, you're the worship pastor. You're wrong for wanting to get paid. You're a thief. He never said that. It's the ones who require money from their people and rape money out of their people are the ones telling the musicians that they're not supposed to ask for money because they don't want to have to pay that out because they want to put it in their pockets. And that's not fair. And I believe that was the spirit of that pastor. I'm not saying it is. That's just my opinion. And that's something that we should not take to heart. And I believe that any pastor who preaching that in their pulpits need to repent and go to God and learn a little bit more about your scripture. Hey, if you like this video and more, make sure you're logging on to YouTube, the Wiley Life, also Speak Music Radio, also Cypher on the Block. All those platforms have different content on there. Obviously, Speak Music Radio is my radio station, which my Cypher on the Block is featured on. And there's other content there from BB Talks and a lot of different things. Interviews that we've done at Stellar Awards, as well as on the Wiley Life. It's all the content that I create, and Cypher on the Block is specifically this podcast. Make sure the whole podcast is in full. That's the only thing that's posted on there. All the clips are posted on the Wiley Life. So make sure you're subscribing and pushing the notification bell because I want to know that you make sure you're supporting. If you like everything I'm doing, support me by going to my Patreon account. That's The Wiley Life Patreon. The Wiley Life. Look that up. Become a Patreon. There's going to be some Patreon exclusive content that are going to be going. If you become a Patreon at certain levels, you will get gifts from my merch store. My merch store. You can also support me that way. If you just want to go get some merch, you can support me that way. That's on teespring.com/stores/The Wiley Life. Make sure you follow me on all of my social medias. That's Chris Conscious on all social medias. That's The Wiley Life and Cypher on the Block. Please, please, please. And we out here in these streets.